Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Alien Protocols. I know the last video was a little scary, but I have some more thoughts and some ways to deal with it, some solutions as was requested. So, when I look at the field here, I want to try and explain to you guys what I think are the weaknesses of this theory, and they're very small weaknesses. There are definitely multiple poles. Now, here's the important part. There is an argument to be said, well, even a bar magnet has multiple poles in the center that start in a more mid-range area and end in a more mid-range area, like the classic bar magnet. But these anomalies, these mega anomalies on the surface, are not like that. They're not parallel to the magnetic field, or at least what a normal one would look like. These run sideways oftentimes, which is the ones you should be pretty concerned about. The up and vertical ones is of different uh, latitudes is fine, but when they start going sideways too, that's a very chaotic, non-traditional, unstable zone. And if you look at the planet right now, I've done it with different maps, and I've counted anywhere from 3 extra poles per pole. So you have the mother pole, the main pole, and then you have these sibling poles, progeny poles, buds that, they bud off, or mitosis, like cells. And it does this because the pole flip isn't like the 2 poles are on the surface of the earth and they just roll across the surface of the earth to the other side. It's not like that. The main poles, as I discussed in the last video, start to travel, and then they break off little buds. Little mini poles start appearing, and they're basically equal of both polarities, same amount of negatives as positive polarities, and then those would split more, and there would be this jostling, this dance amongst the poles and locations, jostling back and forth and around and nuzzling each other as they move past each other to switch poles, flip sides, exchange positions. And then once they get to a certain point, they're now, a majority of their charge is now on the other side of the pole, the other side of the planet. And then there's that big drop I was telling you guys about. Wham! Where I think the field drops to almost, well, it's done exactly that in the past, dropped to 0. And so timing could be one of the issues, though. One of the flaws in this hypothesis is timing. And it's a lot of different types of timing. When is it going to happen? There's not a question of whether it's happening now or not. It is. And it's not a question of whether this is just transient poles, just going for a stroll, which is obviously far beyond that. These little poles, progeny poles, baby poles, and the main ones spend so much energy jostling, breaking apart, traveling, switching with each other, that the energy that was once in their global electromagnetic shield as a big electromagnetic field, that energy now is gone into moving these poles around inside the surface of the earth and on the surface and dividing. And so let's look at this chart real carefully. On this temperature one, you can see these drastic changes. And it looks to me like We've had much more time in cold cycles than warm cycles. But luckily, the past few thousand years, it looks like we've had a surprisingly unusually stable warm environment. But it can drop super fast, or the temperature can rise super fast. Look how straight some of these lines are. And if you plot out how many years, it can be as little as 5, some of them look like. But let's look at the pole shift ones now. This is the real bad one. This is the big dip there to nothing. That's 42,000 years ago. That's the Adams event. That is another pole flip. And when all the little poles and everything was at a high entropy stage, and the electromagnetic shield drops down to nothing, that's when the mega extinction basically happens. All the radiation from space, the dangerous cosmic rays, and everything else blasts everything. We lost most of the really incredible big animals in North America. Other places around the world lost their megafauna. And we won't be able to escape. And here's the thing. It's not at 0 for a day. It has to now climb back the other side. The poles do, they go to the other sides. And then as they go back to a more ordered state, the field slowly rises. But when it's incredibly low, it's super dangerous. And I have some solutions and some ideas that might help. But I still also want to reinforce the notion that I made an estimation that we were at like 45, 50% of the total field strength. But look at it again. Look at the max and look at nothing. And the percentage, to me, it's looking more like, that looks like 65% to me, maybe 70% of our electromagnetic shield is gone. Look how fast it's been dropping, guys. This is not 10 years from now. This is not 100 years from now. Ironically, an ambulance goes past. You know, in the past, I believe the elite had many survival plans. In Homo sapiens, 300,000 years. Modern humans like us, 300,000 years they've been on the planet. There have been a lot of civilizations, gang. Mighty ones. We wouldn't have even suspected were on the surface. And all of them got scraped to bedrock. And none of those elite, survival plans worked. And it's because of their greediness to be elite that they did not get all of the brain power and resources and innovation of the whole population. That's how to survive. If we got the whole population behind the massive effort to create a safe space underground, safe spaces all over the world, because this could last up to, I'm looking like, based on previous ones, it could be even up to 1,000 years, maybe even 1,500. And then also, it's not going to snap to 100% strength again. It's going to slowly creep up again. So 2,000 years, human beings might have to be underground. Here's my solutions or ideas. We can build electronics twice as large with enough shielding for a decent mechanical lifespan of usefulness. We can create some forms of transportation or shipping that would last longer for emergencies and the most important stuff. Buses and special planes, maybe giant helicopters. We have to dig massive, massive underground cities, hydroponic underground farms that could feed everybody. And these spaces have to be massive enough, not only to accommodate all the civilians, but grow. These places have to be places of growth, and a society can be there and innovate, and kids and humans can be humans. All of us is what it's going to take to save us. The elite survival club has never worked. Well, maybe not, unless gray aliens are. Never mind. So what we'd have to do is a lot of things, but they're certainly doable. This doesn't have to be. We can turn a mega disaster into a disaster if we're prepared. In these giant underground cities, we could have preset refined materials and fabrication zones, giant, like, you know, factories to sustain growth and innovation, construction, all the construction needs. Of course, we can start with inventing the best kind of shielding for clothing and hats and skin and children and things like that to reduce the damage. We could start right now with a team that starts putting together all the different things that would be needed, the new inventions that would be needed, and start planning out where the best places to build these underground cities would be, all the things that would be needed. Somehow in my brain, I see, these truck drivers. You won't survive long on the surface, unprotected. So some things still have to happen on the surface, probably. There will be truck drivers and these incredibly heavily shielded 18 wheelers running a gauntlet of, road warrior esque, desperate land pirates and starving crowds and, you know, decrepit, failing infrastructure and bridges and roads. And a real apocalypse outdoors, gang. When I look at this new adjusted electromagnetic field strength that we're at right now, I'm wrong. I was wrong before. It's not at 40% or 50%. It looks like it's at 65 to 70% of its original strength, gang. Stuff's going to start happening soon. And stuff's already happening. You see it with the weather. Europe was supposed to, they've never had no snow on all those ski resorts. Well, I think there's hope in this. And hope is if we come together and address the situation for all of humanity. Somebody, please tell me I'm wrong. Please tell me I'm wrong. Please, somebody. I love you guys.